Right, everyone, I called this meeting here today to discuss what our next move will be after the success of Batman Forever.
Can we get Val to come back?
I don't see why not. Oh god, I made a mistake. How do I undo? How do I undo? That was close. Why are y'all looking at me like that? Reboot then? So I just want to be clear, this isn't based on any actual facts or reporting. This is purely my own thoughts about what kind of movie they could have done if Val Kilmer did come back for a second Batman film. And also if they were willing to leave behind some of the Adam West type vibes they ended up going with for most of Batman and Robin. But first, we have to go over whether you're pro or against the bat nips. Personally, I've always thought it looked super weird, never liked it. It also seemed weird to me even as a kid that Batman gets nipples, Robin gets nipples, but Batgirl, nothing. I obviously get why they didn't do it, but in my opinion, it's either everyone or no one. One of my biggest issues with the Schumacher films is how it tries to use the leftover DNA from the Tim Burton movies, by retaining some of the actors, using some of the same music themes, and just look at this shot from Batman Forever of the man who shot Bruce's parents that's literally framed the exact same way as it was in Batman '89. Which wouldn't be a problem if they were honoring Burton's work, but this is clearly just using it to bring in the fans of Keaton's Bats, while slowly turning it into a modern day version of the 60s show. This is also when they started to do things like adding Three Stooges sound effects to movements and actions. Look at this picture of Clooney's Batman, just standing like he's about to get in a slap fight with someone rather than an actual fight with them. Boom! Bam! Pow! And to top it all off, in the first 10 minutes of Batman and Robin, he comes sliding down the back of a museum dinosaur display to the point where you almost think it's a Flintstone film. I wasn't joking when I mentioned they wanted to turn this into a modern day Adam West-like franchise. So in a hypothetical world where Val Kilmer was to return for Batman and Robin, what are some of the first things we need to do to tell a better story? I think we need to thin out the roster of characters, so we're going to reduce Ivy's role in this tale, removing her villain arc completely to focus on Victor and his struggle. This was another moment the writing veered towards the 60s iteration of over-the-top performances. The way the characters act is so weird in a modern context and doesn't really do justice to what the actors and actresses would have been capable of. Ivy doesn't seem like a real person most of the time, which is a shame because I'm a big fan of Uma Thurman overall. And don't even get me started on the big old diseased-looking swollen penis known as Bane. I mean, the mask is cool, but he spends the entire movie smashing generic items and simping over Ivy before she pumps a round of drugs through his veins. That's it. But to say something positive about the character, he does look pretty awesome when he's out and about the town in his trench coat and detective hat disguise. I wish more films would do that with its villains. And let the record state, I'm not advising we take her out entirely, just reduce her main role while teasing her as another wealthy socialite in Gotham that's at odds with Bruce Wayne, so in the potential third film of this hypothetical Val Kilmer trilogy, she and Bruce would already have set up a potential face-off. This also gives us the space to tell a more in-depth, darker story involving Freeze that wasn't possible before with limited screen time. I believe this tactic would have even worked in making a better movie with George Clooney's version as well. But let's be real, nobody wanted that in the first place. When I think of a more menacing Arnold as Mr. Freeze, I think of something along the lines of the first Terminator movie from the 80s, when he was the evil version of the T-800, just out on a mission kicking anyone's ass that gets in his way. In the version we got, they barely even touched on Freeze's wife and what she meant to him. We never even really got to see her get sick and how it took a toll on him. Basically, their entire history is relayed to us through a short series of home videos, which feels cheap and degrading to Nora as a character. Victor's very nature makes him the perfect villain to go between these dark, powerful moments and the tortured feelings of doing it all for the only person he loves. And they come so close to giving him some of these moments in Batman and Robin, but every time they start to go down that road, they instantly snap back to some Adam West quirkiness that entirely takes away from the scene. Freeze and his struggle to save Nora while balancing the potential of losing his humanity have given us some of the truly great stories over the years, so it's really disappointing to see they didn't choose to adopt one here. And like I said, there are a few times they come oh so close to doing it, but each time they refuse to actually go through with it. Another time being when they briefly touched upon the idea of how he can't breathe in the regular air and needs a cold zone to survive. He's caught completely off guard by it and shows a legitimate moment of fear, which is ruined shortly later by going right back to its slapstick nature in the next scene. I believe it's also the only time they really delve into it, leaving another interesting story beat dead on arrival. Before we continue, remember to like and subscribe for more TV and movie related content. Plus something about a YouTube algorithm? Comment down below what you think Batman and Robin would have been like if Val Kilmer had returned instead of George Clooney. Remember, don't forget to subscribe. Batman would subscribe. Do it. Do it. Cutting down on some of the character list also gives us the opportunity to take a deeper dive into the psychology of Kilmer's version, trying to find the balance between being Bruce or the Bat. But like most of the story in Joel Schumacher's Batman, it's told briefly over some quick scenes and never gives us the chance to truly flesh things out. Like in this deleted scene from Batman Forever, where it shows Bruce facing off against his spirit animal as he begins to find his inner identity as the Caped Crusader. It's unfortunate that it was cut and never revisited in a later installment. This also would have been Kilmer's Batman's first chance to fight against a cunning and physically threatening foe. When you think about who he had gone up against before, to this point the biggest test they had given him was a team up between a geriatric burn victim with lots of guns and an undiagnosed mental patient with a bag full of grenades and a cane. This would have been the real moment where Kilmer's version gets to show just what he's made of and overcome someone who's quick-witted, carries a deadly ice blaster, and has the physical presence to throw hand to hand with our hero. Though of course they need a strong reason to have a showdown, so we can just recycle the gemstone plot point and center it around Bruce as the rightful owner, with plans to try and use it for Gotham as a clean power source for decades, which Victor could care less about since in his mind, the only person that deserves or needs saving is his wife Nora. And then there's the whole unresolved Riddler conundrum from the end of Forever. It cuts to the Riddler locked in an asylum cell where he's claiming to know who Batman really is, which he does. So by this point, he should have started to come back to reality a bit, and would probably still have bitter feelings to both sides of Mr. Wayne's personality, making him more than willing to share said information with another out for revenge. That would give Freeze the opportunity to pull a surprise attack on Batman when he isn't expecting it, showing just how dangerous Freeze really is. A quick ice blast and bam! We got ourselves a bat-shaped ice sculpture. For the time being, it would give us the opportunity to have a big moment for our hero to overcome. It also provides the chance for Chris O'Donnell's Robin to step up with the Batman temporarily frozen. This is a Batman and Robin film after all, and show he's grown up from the big whiny baby he was through most of Batman Forever, and maybe even capable of being a hero to a city of his own one day. Bloodhaven. Oh, excuse me. I think Freeze truly would have been a great adversary for Kilmer to get past, but this was just not the path they wanted to take with him, which really is unfortunate. Then comes the coolioest moment in the entire Batman and Robin film. And I don't mean in any way that this part is cool, it just literally has Coolio in it. R.I.P. In fact, this entire street racing arc they try to pass off as Barbara Gordon's origin story sucks ass so hard it makes no sense. And for some reason, every person there is dressed like this goober. Some of the worst designed outfits ever. Make it stop. I don't understand why they thought this was a good story background for her path to the Bat family. Like, she isn't even good at it and doesn't even seem to get Alfred's relationship with Bruce. What are we even doing here? Then during one of the races, for some reason her and Robin, these naturally talented riders, crash and nearly die because of a thin wall of fire that a person could literally just walk through. And since nothing in this universe makes sense, including physics, they crash, once again because of a thin wall of fire, and start sliding and sliding and sliding and sliding. After 42 minutes of getting road rash, they make it to the end of the broken bridge, where they are literally saved by mere chance and circumstances. They're prevented from falling hundreds of feet to their deaths simply by Robin's foot accidentally getting stuck in a bent piece of rebar. And there's zero chance this was something he did on purpose to save them. This is the same guy that 42 minutes ago, when they first began sliding, crashed because of a thin firewall. Now he's supposed to be able to see the end of the bridge coming while sliding, somehow getting a visual over the edge to even see the rebar was there, and have the dexterity to grab Barbara, turn himself around, and catch his foot in the bend? Nah, dude, I'm hearing none of that nonsense. The only reason her character doesn't die is because Robin's foot got stuck. Let's just take a second to appreciate how dumb that is. So once again, let me reiterate just how bad her origin is. Firstly, she shows up thinking that being a butler is somehow like being enslaved to another person, even though it's a career choice. And also, wouldn't her boy Al have way more money from years of providing service to his billionaire employers than she could ever make in a few street races? Like, if Alfred wanted to retire, he could have done so at any point of his own choosing. Secondly, her whole training story is just being really bad at street races. It's not like she's either naturally talented or gets better over the process of more racing. But at the end of the day, this is apparently enough to warrant her becoming Batgirl. Like, what? I would have done the same thing with her that I'm doing with Ivy. Just take out the whole Batgirl scenario and reduce her to being Barbara for now. Is this Batman and Robin or Batman and Robin and Batgirl? Take her mostly out of this film except for an introductory teaser so that way when she replaces Robin in the hypothetical third film of this franchise, Batman and Batgirl or whatever it would have been called, they can give her the proper screen time to do it good. But why is she replacing Robin? Did he die? No. See, they were actually planning a solo Robin film starring O'Donnell, which if I had my way, would have been about him leaving his old moniker behind to become Nightwing, while protecting his own Gotham-like city called Bloodhaven. But obviously, after the lack of success Batman and Robin had, they would eventually just choose to do a reboot with Christopher Nolan 8 years later. All these moves would have left us with the room in the last movie to tell a more interesting and accurate origin for Batgirl, while also giving the same space to Uma's Ivy to really make her a more complete character than what we got, which really just felt like a weirdo of the week from an episode of The Adam West Show. Somewhere out there in an alternate universe is a version of this movie where Kilmer came back for a trilogy of films, and they weren't forced into making it seem like a children's show either. I wish I could go to that universe for just a day only to see this cut of Batman and Robin. Though before you leave, let me show you these amazing suit edits I found on Reddit. There was no mention of who any of the artists were, but shout out to each one of you that made one of these, cause they're freaking cool as hell. Let's start with the color change of the Clooney suit. Man, I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but the more unique style of George's version, combined with a legit classic color layout, really hits hard. In my opinion, it's leagues above what they actually did. Onto the Van Morrison change, Val Kilmer change. Yo, for the longest time I've wanted to see someone try for a traditional copy of the blue suit, yet here I wait. I think this edit looks really great, and the subtle way they changed the cheeks on the cowl is a cool way to make it feel more individual than the actual version that was clearly just a Burton clone. The last one being this pic of Chris O'Donnell's suit, where they made him into Nightwing instead of Robin. And I gotta say, I really love the way the black and blue counterbalance each other. It's kind of sad he never actually got to level up his storyline and become Nightwing in the end. What do you all think? Would Batman and Robin been much different at all if Val Kilmer had come back and saved us from having to experience a George Clooney and latex film? Because he sure as heck wasn't Bruce Wayne. Anyways, thanks for watching and be well.